Since the last time we talked, you've had, I don't know, maybe six months. What have you been doing in that time, and what conventions have you been to?
Well, that's actually a good segue into what I've been doing. Yeah, I'm actually living in Banff right now, doing some work at the Banff Center for theater. So I have been making costumes for, right now I'm working on a dance show, and we're going to be doing an opera. And in between, I've kind of been working on my cosplays. So Anne, who just walked in, is one of the production stage managers that I work with. And so yeah, I'm basically at a giant artist community, kind of further expanding my costuming. So yeah, that's what I've been up to.
Have you been to any conventions since?
Yes. Right before I left, I went to, what was that? I do a lot of Burlington Toy Con, just messing around in Toronto at several smaller things, and then Anime North was the weekend before I left, so that was a huge one. So that was kind of my send-off to here that I've been prepping for most of that time.
Oh, cool. So you've actually been working on costumes other than yours. Does that increase your skill level at all, or have you learned anything new?
Definitely. A lot of the stuff I do for other people, I do a lot of commissions for men actually, because I don't really get the chance to do male costumes for myself. So right now I'm working on Deadpool for one of the guys here, and I'm working on Booker from Bioshock Infinite. So that stuff I don't normally get to work on. And then I did Party Poison from Danger Days for my sister, which is also a men's costume, so that was an interesting thing I had to work out, how to get a girl to look like a guy and those such things.
So you've been kind of quiet on the convention scene. How has the cosplay for a cure been going since you've been kind of inactive for a little bit?
As far as I know, it's been amazing. The last big thing we did was Anime North, and we raised over $1,000, so that was incredible. The amount of support and the amount of people who know us now just blows my mind every time I show up at a convention. And I get regular reports from Casey, the other co-chair, and from what she's told me, we've done really well. We just did Niagara Falls Comic-Con, and Con Bravo's coming up, which is our 1-year anniversary thing. So people are really excited. We're getting a lot more notice, and there's a considerable amount of conventions that now ask us to come to them rather than us asking them.
Are you guys planning on making a 401 non-for-profit, or are you kind of, what is your status?
Right now, we're just an event under the Canadian Breast Cancer Foundation, but probably shortly after Con Bravo, we're going to be registering as a non-profit so that we can do other things, because right now we're kind of just locked into the Canadian Breast Cancer Foundation. We can't donate any money elsewhere, and we were looking into actually donating money directly to cancer treatment centers. So that's something that we can't do unless we're a non-profit. So we're making that transition. It's just we rely on sponsors and things like that to actually be able to fund the mass amount of paperwork.
So you guys together, I guess you and the co-chair went to them and said you have this idea. What was their kind of initial reaction?
Well, she came to me with the idea. We have a friend named Shannon who, actually, she's doing really well now. At the time, she had just told us that she had stage 3 breast cancer. So Casey brought the idea to me, and I said, let's do it. And a lot of people didn't really understand what we were trying to do in the first place, but I'm really lucky to have really good, really supportive friends, and I kind of bounced the idea off them. Hey, do you want to do a photo booth? All you really have to do is stand there and look pretty. This is why we're doing it, and they were right on board. Everyone we've everyone who's actually been to the booth has had a really, really good time, and the reactions have been great. Some people get a little bit confused when they don't know what we do, but once they see what we're doing, they're like, yeah, this is a great idea, this is so cool, why did we not think of this? Because we thought of it first.
So you're going to a convention and you're walking around the floors, and go through what's in your kind of cosplay repair kit.
Alright, well
Take some stuff out and kind of explain like, why.
Well, I don't carry a lot around, because usually I try to build my costumes to last. But if there's an emergency, the number one thing you can have is a glue gun and glue sticks. And I'm bad and I don't have one with me right now. The other things I carry are, which I can actually show you, I also have a spool of white thread, spool of black thread, hand sewing needles, and small pair of scissors. Because say you lose a snap in a really inconvenient part of your costume, you can kind of rush off to the bathroom and fix that. Say your armor's falling apart, you can go find a plug in your glue gun, sort yourself out. It should last at least a couple hours. Most of my stuff... Sorry.
What's your typical carry bag that you use?
Normally I carry... Usually it's like a... kind of like a large purse. I can show you usually what I carry around. Something like this. Something like this, but never any bigger than that because it just gets in the way. A lot of times I'll try to build costumes with pockets or with bags that match them so it doesn't look awkward. But I try to bring something big enough that I can carry my phone, my wallet, my little mini sewing kit, and any other little things I might need. So
let's say you have like a tear in the cape. Is that something where you have to go back to the hotel room to fix? For example, the Power Girl.
It depends on the tear. A lot of times, see, capes are one of those things that are really full, so if there's a tear, usually it's okay. If it's a massive tear, I would maybe consider going back to the hotel room, especially if the cape's like, say my Power Girl cape is red, and I don't want to be fixing that with white thread, because that's going to look worse than just having a tear. But yeah, if something like that were to happen, cross my fingers that it doesn't, yeah, I'd probably consider going back to the hotel room, or just kind of play it up like, oh yeah, I just got in a fight, you know how it is.
Is there a particular way that you transport the costumes, or you just like throw them in and worry about ironing later?
Most hotels have an iron, and I always iron stuff when I get there. The first thing I do when I get to conventions is take everything out of my suitcase and hang it up. The number one thing I notice on a lot of cosplayers is they don't iron their costumes, and it shows. If you want your costume to look like 40 times better, iron it before you put it on. But as for packing, I just try to make everything as compact as possible, because usually I'm bringing about 4 or 5 costumes to a 3-day convention. So I just kind of try to stuff it in there. If I have something that's particularly fragile, I'll use a garment bag, but otherwise it just goes in my suitcase.
Are there any costumes that you've done that you want to kind of redo now?
Yeah, actually. I just did a Sailor Mercury costume, and every time I wear it, I find something that I want to fix. I've worn it probably 4 times now, and it's still not perfect. So I'm just slowly working at that one, and I'd probably like to give my Black Lantern Hawk Girl a bit of a makeover. I've learned a lot since I made that, and there's some parts where I just look at it and think, why did I do that? So now that it's been, I think, 1.5 years, 2 years since I made that, and I definitely could do some things better.
Yeah, you just talked about your Sailor Mercury. Can you go through making the visor and how you did that?
Yes, I don't tell a lot of people how I made that visor, but I will tell you. It's actually... I had to think about that one for a while because I knew that I didn't have the facilities to cast acrylic or color acrylic, and at the time I didn't know how to do that anyway. So what I did was I went to Canadian Tire and I found like a license plate cover, and I took a heat gun and just heated it to the point where it probably was very close to melting, and bent it over the edge of a wooden table so that I got the curve. And then I just used a Dremel to shape the edges. So it just elastics around my head and the elastics hide under my wig. And it was actually really easy. I'd like to make one out of cast acrylic someday, but I don't really have the means to do that right now.
Is there a particular reason that you got the shade of blue?
I was lucky. I got lucky. I actually found it in that color. I was gonna look at tinting film for car windows, but I knew that would bubble, and I didn't want that, so I just got lucky with the color.
Did you have to build like a skeleton for it, or?
For Sailor Mercury?
Yeah.
No, I use there's a really good brand of patterns called Quixo, and they have a lot of good bodysuit patterns, so I've kind of taken those and then adapted them. The Sailor Mercury one more so than the Power Girl one. But yeah, everything I do is done on paper first, and then if I'm really unsure about it, I do a mock-up out of like a fabric I'm not sure I'm gonna need later, and then if it works, then I do a good copy.
So you have a sketchbook?
Yes. Yes.
Perhaps we could see the sketchbook.
I actually don't have it with me here.
Oh, no.
Well, hang on, I might have something in this one, but most of this book is notes.
So you also take notes about the costume?
Yeah, actually I can show you one of my theater things. So we're building these harem pants that kind of look like Princess Jasmine pants. So I've kind of just done a little sketch of what they're supposed to look like, and then I've done a stupid amount of notes about how to dye them, how to put them together, how like the steps involved, things like that. So it's really useful to get into the habit of taking notes about what you're building, especially if you want to remake that costume, or if you need to reference something for later for another costume. So I try to make a habit of taking notes.